Why build a business when you can just buy a business or 101 businesses? Hello and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. This is your home on the web to get advice and inspiration to sell more, faster, at higher margin with less stress and more fun, and I guarantee it. When I left the Air Force in 1997, I got into commission sales and I never looked back. In 2006, I started the Sales Whisperer, where my goal is to help you as an entrepreneur, as a professional salesperson, understand what it takes, what is working today to grow, to reach an audience, to get the word out, and to prosper. And to help make that happen, I not only bring on interesting guests that have unique approaches to business and to staying motivated and to getting everything out of life and business that they can, but I also create tools and provide my own input to help you do that. And one of those tools can be found at thebestsalessecrets.com. It's a free 21-page report that covers things such as how to get in the right frame of mind, 7 key points you must apply to win at sales, how to look at money, and most people look at it wrong, and the true purpose of the sale. So reward yourself for finding this podcast and listening, and download thebestsalessecrets.com. Now on with the show. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ace Chapman, leaves his wonderful world of the Caribbean to come to Atlanta to have a great connection with us on the Sales Podcast, man. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great. How are you? It's great to be here.
I'm good. I'm glad we could reconnect. Got us a good signal. I'm on your website. Bam! Ace Chapman, do you want to buy a business? So I saw that and I was like, I got to talk to this guy. But for those that don't know you, don't know your story, would you mind take a minute or two, kind of tell us about yourself, and we'll dive down the rabbit hole?
Absolutely. So I started at the age of 19, bought my first business. That was 16 years ago, which is hard to believe now. But I started going down this path of trying to figure out how you buy businesses and find these great deals, because I'd gotten really lucky on my very first one and knew that there may be this opportunity, even though nobody ever really talked about it. And so as of about 6 years ago, I really felt like, okay, I've figured this thing out. I wonder if other people can replicate it. And now we've built a network of 150 business buyers all over the world.
So what led you to buy that first business?
It was not any stroke of genius, I'll tell you that. It was really just the fact that I was a user of the business and enjoyed it as a product. So for me, it was a stock market simulator. I was a huge business nerd, and it was more the desire to see it operate well. And it was always crashing. It was always having these issues. You could never get in touch with the owners. So I reached out to them really to become an intern for the summer. And they wrote back and basically said, well, actually, we just want to sell this because we moved on to another project. Would you like to buy it? It's like, okay, from interning to buying the company, that's escalating pretty quickly, but maybe I could figure this out. And that was because they really didn't want the business anymore. I got this amazing deal. The business was making close to $70,000 a year, and they were willing to sell it for $70,000. And which was an incredible amount of money for a 19-year-old kid. But the downside was all I had was $3,000 to my name. I'd saved up from working the summer before. And so that's when this whole idea of creatively getting a deal done came up, because, as we all know, necessity is the mother of invention. And I started trying to figure out, okay, I really want this. I would love to own this. And I knew if I went to my parents, they would think I was absolutely crazy. So I started trying to put together the pieces, starting with going back to them and asking them for 50% financing. So they were willing to do some financing, which looking back now, I know was absolutely outrageous for me to ask. But because I was clueless, I had no idea that was an outrageous thing to ask on top of the amazing deal they had given me. And raised a little bit of capital from a buddy of mine. And again, unbeknownst to my parents, because they would have thought I was crazy, I took out some credit card to make up the difference of the two. And so I turned this $3,000 into a business that was profiting a little over $60,000 a year.
Man, that's awesome. So you mean you didn't go to the government and tell them that was an unfair price and ask for concessions and a new law from Congress and your governor, and you didn't do all that?
I realized that it was going to take me a while if I took that route.
So that's awesome. So you asked them to carry back some financing. You got some credit cards. Hey, it's whatever works. When I got started in sales training with the Sales Whisperer, I partnered with a guy, an older gentleman that was my sales coach, and he was wanting to branch out. And in his story, when he'd made the dive into entrepreneurship, he talks about, he borrowed money from his mom, had some credit card debt. He was, I think, $40,000 in the hole. So it was like, back against the wall marketing, right? And some people that'll crush, and others will rise to the occasion. So it's not really right or wrong. Do you think you just know when it's your path and you're just compelled to follow it?
Well, I think the real bottom line is people talk about, credit cards and da-da-da. But at the end of the day, we make a lot of dumb purchases as Americans. We spend a lot of money on absolutely ridiculous things. And in a lot of cases, we're spending money on things that have no possibility of appreciating or making us a dime. And so I really felt like, okay, this is something. If I am going to hit the concrete and it's all going to go wrong, I would rather it be on a business as opposed to entertainment centers and, some crazy car and all these things. And so I was willing to take that risk at that point. One, because I had the time to make up for it. But two, because, I saw my buddies spending outrageous amounts of money just on alcohol to go out and hang out. And so, sometimes we look at the money we invest in business, and instead of comparing that to just all the money we spend in general, if the investment goes bad, we're like, oh no, I lost $15,000 on this investment. It's like, dude, you wasted $15,000 on crap that never had a possibility of making money.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, a guy I know here, I've had him on the show, Henry Evans, he's a friend of mine down in San Diego. And he talks about, he left a nice job in corporate America. And he had a family, and he ended up going over $100,000 in credit card debt before he figured out this entrepreneur thing. He lived to tell about it.
Yeah. And I think that it's really a matter of continuing to move forward. And I had, that it actually wasn't as much of a successor as I guess it could have been, because with that first business, Cool Wall Street, we grew it. We had amazing offers. This is 1998. I had left a college that was top 20 school and had a full ride to run this business because, when I bought it, it had 10,000 members. We grew it to 250,000 and had 7-figure offers to buy it. And then the dot-com crash happened. And, 2000, late 2000, early 2001, all of those offers disappeared, and we ended up selling it for about $150,000. I got none of that money. It went to people we owed and people who had put money in. And so I literally started from scratch again and took a corporate job for a little while, realized like there's no way I want to do this. And that was the impetus for me to start figuring out, okay, how can I go and replicate what I did with that very first deal.
So why did you sell? Did you just want to sell, or just the way the economy imploded, you just kind of had to?
Yeah, the business model did not really work in the economy because it was advertising driven. And basically for that period of time, for folks that were around it during that time, it just dried up. And so, we could have lived alone for a few years. And I had some amazing mentors and some people who were part of that business that basically said, hey, man, you're young, get rid of this thing. You're talented. Go figure out something else rather than trying to spend, through the next 3 years seeing if we could make that work.
Right. So what did that economy meltdown teach you about getting businesses in the future? Obviously we had another one, right? 2008. Mm-hmm. Some people are still limping by. Is there a type of business or an industry that is recession proof, or is it more the entrepreneur just, needs to keep their powder dry, maybe hold a little bit back, in reserves to ride out storms, or, what? So, what did that implosion teach you?
I learned so many things. And one of the things that was a valuable lesson was overcorrecting. Because after that, I completely wrote off the internet.
Okay.
Just like, I don't want to ever do anything on this internet thing again. It's here today, gone tomorrow. I don't want to do anything. And, fast forward to today, I've got a portfolio of about 20 different websites that included in the businesses that I own. So obviously that didn't last forever, but there was a time where if I would have kind of had the bigger picture and learned some lessons that I learned later in businesses, that was an opportunity to buy, like Warren Buffett talks about. So that was the time to start looking at some other deals where people were just walking away from these really great opportunities. But I ended up doing some other things. A lesson on the other end that did create a lot of profit was I was very trigger happy. So at that point, I felt like, if somebody wants to buy my business, I am ready to sell it. I'm not going to turn down offers like I did with that first business. So that led me to really making some really great deals. And probably the biggest one was I bought a couple of units of a franchise called Homevestors, which bought and sold real estate.
Right.
And, bought the business. We were running it, grew it from buying about 30 houses a year to over 70. We did a lot of deals. I owned it for less than 2 years. And somebody came along and was like, hey, I want to buy this. And I was like, great, that's a good thing because it's for sale. Everything is for sale. So I struck a deal with him, ended up selling it. And little did I know, what was coming around the corner. And it came slowly. I mean, it's so now we can look back and you can see things. And, like I say, hindsight's 20/20. But the reason that was such a big deal is because it did come really slowly. And, you just see deals stay on the market a little bit longer. And then, you see some deals that you really couldn't sell. And then a little bit, I definitely had no idea what was coming around the corner, but that was one of those deals where being trigger happy definitely got me out of something where, it could have been round two of what we saw. And so the third lesson that I will say that's crucial that most entrepreneurs don't get the benefit of is just being able to diversify. And so, when I mentioned owning, 20 different internet businesses or, we've got several, I've done 16 deals that were offline businesses. All of those things give you a little bit of the ability to make it through the changes and cycles in the economy, because there's no way to completely avoid recessions or completely avoid things that you have no idea that are going to happen in certain industries. The best thing you can do is diversify. And so I focus a lot of my time on building a diversified portfolio of businesses that create income for me. So
it's like two sides of the same coin. I see some people say specialize, right? Go deep in a niche and own it, yada, yada. But, others, Warren Buffett, whomever, you saying, diversify. How do you know when to diversify, where to diversify? You go from being a stock trader / entrepreneur to a corporate America guy to buying a real estate franchise. It's like, what the heck? Some people might say that Chapman guy, he's insane. So are you insane, or are you like, what are they, wise, like a, what is it, rabbit? I don't know, like a hare?
Fox.
So
crazy like a fox.
Crazy like a fox. There you go. So what's the deal? Are you crazy like a fox?
So I actually do. I am a very big believer in going deep in a skill set. It just so happens that I feel like, and again, agree with Warren Buffett, the greatest skill set you can have is the deal maker skill set. And that's what I focus on. Sometimes I get interviewed or I'm talking to a magazine and they call me an entrepreneur, and I'm quick to correct that because I'm not. Like I've tried, a couple of times to go out and start something from scratch. I don't know, I can't do that. It's a very tough thing. I'm used to buying something and it making money the very next day. And so this is a very different skill set than being an entrepreneur. It's more like being an investor. And so when you're an entrepreneur, there are a lot of skill sets that it takes to make that work. And so if you're focused on a skill set that you have to build a business around, there are all these peripheral skill sets like, random stuff, getting good at PPC advertising and social media and, content marketing is the big thing right now. And you got to figure out the lean startup because, we got to make that lean. And it's just all this endless stuff. I don't want to be good at any of that. I want to be good at, the things I call the deal maker skill set, which is knowing how to find deals, knowing how to do due diligence on deals, valuing them, and doing deal structure. And so I go really deep on those things and let the other people who are obviously a lot smarter than I am figure out how to beat the entrepreneur gauntlet and make it to the other side. And then I can just say, oh, great, you're exhausted from starting that business from scratch. I'll take it now.
Gotcha. So what are some things people should look for? I mean, somebody listening to this podcast right now, should they just go out and start trying to do their own deals? Should they contact someone like you? How do they get started? And how do they know that it is a good deal?
Yeah. So some of the things to look for in a deal, one is longevity. You want to make sure that the business has proven itself, that it's got some consistent revenues, and it's not just a startup. A tough thing for entrepreneurs is switching over to thinking like a deal maker or investor. And, it's not about getting excited about an idea. I get people who call me all the time and like, I found a great business. This thing has so much potential. We're not buying potential. We're buying what it's doing right now, what it's going to be doing tomorrow. So buying something that has some consistency, with offline businesses, I won't look at anything under 5 years. With internet businesses, I'll buy businesses that are over at least 2 years. So you want to stay in those ranges. The other thing is that it has some systems in place. So it's not just an entrepreneur who every day is waking up and figuring out how to make money. Even if something happened to that entrepreneur, that business has the systems in place to continue running and, producing a profit on a monthly basis, whether they're there or not. So there's certain things that you just want to look at the business and make sure that it's working before you go out and you spend money on something. And then the final thing is that it's able to buy itself. I think a lot of people think that buying a business is more expensive than starting one. And it really shouldn't be, because you should be able to go out and get capital for a good business. People don't like to think that they can get capital because they've tried to get capital on a startup and nobody wants to invest in a startup. So what ends up happening is they think, oh, well, when it comes to own a business, there's nowhere to get money. The truth is, when you have a business that's making money, there's a ton of ways to go out and get financing. And it should end up being cheaper than starting something from scratch, in addition to just a lot less work.
So should people, do they go to a bank and get a loan, or do they ask for the outrageous, like you said, and ask for the owner to carry back some of the financing? And are these businesses advertised, or is it more like once you start looking, put some feelers out, you kind of get word of mouth that, Joe Smith around the corner is looking to sell his business?
So you should absolutely ask for seller holdbacks. Like 90% of the deals that we do have some form of seller holdback. It'll be different percentages based on the deal that you're getting. The reason that in that first deal it was outrageous was because they were basically giving me a 50% discount on the deal. Normally, you're buying a business at 2x earnings, which is amazing in and of itself. I mean, just the fact that, something that's making $100,000 a year, you can go out and buy for $200,000, and you have tons of entrepreneurs that have spent well over $200,000 trying to start a business from scratch and didn't make $1.
And just to be clear, that's profit, right? Not just gross.
That's a key. Yes, right. You're exactly right. That is profit. So it could be grossing $1 million and you're buying that for $200,000. So on that kind of deal, and it's not abnormal for us to get 50% of the financing from the seller because, they're selling it at that normal 2x earnings. Now, if you're buying a deal at 1x earnings, you've got the cash to go out and get money from the bank or use some assets that are within that business to get loans or go out and get factoring. And they're one of the things we do with our clients is there are 100 different forms of financing that are available for existing businesses, not for startups though, but existing businesses. And a lot of people just aren't aware of it. The biggest problem is that the banks only provide 7% of the financing that's given to businesses. And everybody that's doing a small business is going to that 7%. So 93% of the financing given to businesses is from these other sources. And, the key to doing these deals is building out a balance sheet like a real business. So you look at businesses, you can go and get a balance sheet from a business that's on the market. And whether it's a Fortune 500 company or a tiny little penny stock, they're going to have a balance sheet and they're going to be different types of financing in that balance sheet. And so they build a real capital structure with some equity and bonds, which maybe you don't have those things, but you can go get the things like equipment leasing or equipment sale leaseback or factoring or asset-based loans or, it just goes on and on, all the different types of financing that you can put together to build a structure that not only gives you a great ROI because you're putting in less money, but it also decreases your risk because they see this business as a real entity because it's making money and it has assets and it's a real thing.
All right. How many times, like in a small business, how many times are they cooking the books? I mean, do you trust what they give you or do you hand it over to a CPA you trust and they can kind of do a forensic accounting to make sure you're not getting BS'd?
That is one of the skills, I mentioned is that due diligence skill. You can go to an accountant, but at the end of the day, nothing's more valuable than you being able to look at a deal and figure out, hey, is this a good one or a bad one? And part of that is playing detective. So you're going into that deal, you're figuring out, hey, is there anything sketchy going on? And in a lot of cases, we're getting the raw information and building our own models. So we know what's going on in that business. The other neat thing is that now we're doing a lot of internet deals, and it's even more simple to kind of get behind the what they're giving us and figure out what's really going on in that business. But to answer your question, absolutely. The owners will try to cook the books. People will try to scam you. These are real dollar amounts. You don't want to rush out and buy a business and not know what you're doing because, there are folks that will try to get over. And so we absolutely do not trust what a seller gives us.
Right. All right. So usually I use hypotheticals, but let's take my case, for instance. I've got residual income. I'm liquid. I've got cash to put into a deal if I need to. Where do I start? Do I come to you? I got a local good friend that's a business broker. Do I go to him? What kind of parameters? Am I just looking for sheer profit, or do I try to look at a business? Maybe I like dry cleaners. Do I say, hey, go find me a dry cleaner? Versus a stock trading business. Like, what would you tell me to go do as an entrepreneur that has some bandwidth and some cash?
So number one, all of the above for where you go and find deals. I would definitely leverage all your relationships, like with the business broker, but also with other business owners. A lot of business owners don't go around announcing that they want to sell their business. But if 10 business owners, one of them wants to sell their business, but they really are, it's not something that's talked about publicly. So I would go to all the sources. We look for businesses that are on what I call the hidden market. So our search is a lot more targeted. So when we're working with clients, we do a personality test and a skill set test, and we go out and we search businesses that are going to kind of be a good fit for you as far as you being able to go into that business and grow it, as well as enjoy doing the things that business may need help in.
Right.
The other thing, though, is when you're looking at deals and you're going after deals, I don't like to focus too much on a specific industry. So even when I say we target businesses for clients, in a lot of cases, it's targeting businesses that are complementary to your skill set. So let's say you come up with a really high aptitude for marketing. We want to find a business that has very weak marketing, or in an industry where, it would be several of them that where people don't really do marketing. And so you're able to come in and bring your strength and really grow and have an impact on that business. The thing that I look for the most is actually a motivated seller. So as long as I can wrap my head around a business and I've got a motivated seller so that I can get a great deal. We've had several deals where both I and clients have bought businesses that were 100% financed. We just did actually our very best deal ever that I'm very proud of, that a client negotiated in Canada, where, it's in the sporting industry, and basically did 100% finance, 100% earnout, which is basically unheard of. So we have these deals that you can get, and it changes the dynamics. It's not about an industry as much as it is when you have a owner and they really are ready to walk away from that business. That can allow you to go in and still create a win-win, because in a lot of cases, their most important thing just isn't money. It's not that you're ripping somebody off. It's just that at that point, their most important thing is time. They need to sell that business as quickly as possible. So you're giving them that benefit in exchange for a structure that benefits you. And so that's what makes that an even trade. So that's what we try to focus on when we're looking at deals.
Yeah, that's I learned that over the years too. I mean, you make your money going in. You gotta you're going to spend time and effort either buying it or trying to get out of it. So you might as well spend that time and energy up front, right?
Exactly. And so some of the places that we look for deals tend to generate motivated sellers. So one of the places that we go after deals is with divorce attorneys. So anytime we get a new client, we have a campaign where we go out to the people in their market that are divorce attorneys. We tell them about, hey, we're looking to do this, da, da, da. One of the other places is accountants, because they know what's going on behind the scenes. And there are a lot of baby boomers that are looking to sell their businesses. And actually, you mentioned the business broker, but we like to get deals. Every business broker, it has their pocket listings, just like anybody else. When a real estate agent gets this amazing deal, they're not just going to put on the MLS. They're going to take it to some friends. Sure. and that kind of thing. And so we want to be one of those friends by letting them know, hey, we're serious. We've done a ton of deals. We've got this track record. Look us up. And they love that we're serious. So those are some of the things. We've got 36 different things that we do to generate deal flow. And we try to focus on generating deal flow from motivated sellers.
Well, I love what you said right there. 36 different things. Because so many times entrepreneurs are like, oh, I heard if I just put up a billboard, or if I just start a podcast, or if I just have a YouTube channel, I will get all the leads I need. But you've been doing this now for almost 20 years, and you got 36 things you do to find a deal.
Exactly.
Very nice. So are you like Marcus Lemonis on The Profit? Have you seen that show?
I love that show. I love it. Yeah, that's a lot of what we're doing. I was so excited because I feel like this is something that just most people don't even realize happens, and we've been doing it for a really long time. And so I was excited that show came on. I still feel like most people feel it like it's this mysterious thing, but you watch that show and most of the things that he's doing are pretty simple. And there are a lot of things that he could be doing that don't cost any money, but just because he has a lot of money, he's like, oh, well, let's do this and do that. But we've grown. I'll give one quick example. I bought a business that basically sells I don't want to go into the specific niche, but it's an internet business. It's e-commerce and it's cosmetic product. And so we bought this business, and the owner of the business had a warehouse. He was spending money on the employees in the warehouse and shipping the product and the orders and all that stuff. Well, we realized that basically, it's taken up 45% of his revenues in expenses associated with this warehouse. If we just shipped everything to Amazon and had all the orders go through them, that would take our expense down to 15%. So that was something really simple where we doubled the profit of this business literally within 2 weeks, the time that it took us to shut that down and send everything over. And so we bought it at 2 times earnings. And actually that was a deal with the Motivate seller. So we bought that one at 90% financed and, still doubled the profits without expending any money.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, how often can you keep the management staff in place versus having to take over something, because a lot of people I live in Southern California. I got a family. I don't want to be traveling. I don't want to fly to New York or Kansas City, to babysit some business, even if it's throwing off a lot of cash. So how do you keep something running if it's far away?
So the real key with that is deal flow, because you need to have enough deal flow so that you're setting all those parameters before you're closing the deal. So it's not how do you do that? It's just you don't want to do a deal without a manager. I won't close a deal that doesn't have a manager in place. I had a guy who was interviewing me. He was asking, so when you've had these retail establishments, how often did you find yourself stuck behind the register because an employee didn't show up and bringing people up and all that kind of thing? And until he asked that question, I had never thought about it, but I've never known how to run a register in any business I've ever owned. And I probably had like 11 businesses that had some kind of register. It's just like that realization that I've never known how to run a register. and some of these little POS things I didn't even want to try to figure out. So you want to make sure that all of that is completely taken care of. And so that just because now I have clients that are happy to do that. And so they're happy to run a business and be in the business, run the business every day and that kind of thing. But that's my criteria. You mentioned going to Kansas City. Another criteria for you should be, you only want to buy a business within an hour drive. Well, you're in Southern California, so we may just to get a few miles may take an hour.
Dude, I know. I can't get to the grocery store in an hour on some days. So,
so we got to expand that a little bit. Have a 60-mile radius. You're just going to have to be in the car a bit.
Hey, here's a business. We're going to create zip lines all over Southern California, all right? Just fling yourself over the mountains, over into Orange County. That's going to be $1 bazillion.
Fun. Fun as well. So a big part of that is deal flow. When we're working with clients, the average person that buys a business does due diligence on 6.5 businesses before they buy one because they're just looking at the businesses that are advertised. The average client that we work with looks at over 100 businesses and does due diligence on them using our systems. And so just by nature, if they did nothing else, if you just look at 100 deals as opposed to 6.5, you're going to end up with a really great deal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what is the process to work with you? I mean, do we put you on a retainer, or do you get a piece of the action when the deal closes, like a real estate broker? Or how can people get started with you?
Yeah, so the first thing is to apply. We have an application process because it's not a training program. What we do is kind of walk you through the process. We help people start the foundation. And I'm a believer that whether you're looking to just replace income or build a portfolio of businesses, you should treat this like you're in the business of buying a business. So that's what we do. And we basically guarantee that you're going to buy your first business within a year of working with us, and we'll help you get that deal done. Now, the reason we have to go through a little bit of application process, make sure that you're being mainly realistic, based on where you are right now. Can we get you to where you're trying to go? And sometimes, I've had plenty of people, some people that get upset. But, I have to tell them, like, no, we can't help you right now. You need to do this and this and this, and then come back and then we can help you later. Then we work with you for up to a year. We help you get your first deal done. I invest in a lot of my clients' deals, which is the main reason I started that 6 years ago was I realized either I had to do bigger deals and compete with the private equity firms. Once you get over $2 million deal, they've come down to the point chasing the returns because they're paying 9-10 times earnings. We're paying 2. It used to be they didn't go below $10 million. Now they're at 5, and now I've competed against them on $2 million deals, which is outrageous. So in order for me to do more of these small deals, I needed other people that could go out and do this process that we're talking about, where you're creating the deal flow, where you're, doing the due diligence, you're negotiating with the seller and putting together the financing, and then, even managing and run the deal. So I've just seen nowhere else where you can buy an asset that is given a 50% return, and that's just an average deal, where you're buying something that's 2 times earnings, let alone a really great deal. And so I wanted to figure out, how can I do more of these where I can put my personal money in? And so we've got tons of testimonials on YouTube, and in a lot of those deals, they mentioned that I'm an investor in their deals. So I put my money where my mouth is, and that's a big reason as to why we even have this network and why it exists.
Hey, I was on mute. Dang it.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to let you. I'm like, we're definitely connected. Everything looks good.
Well, I'm sitting here taking notes. I try to mute real quick so I can type, and I'm writing down some questions that I'm thinking of. So what I said was, I will be in touch with you. So where can we send people? Is it acechapman.com? Is that the best place?
Yes. So people can check out acechapman.com. You can shoot me an email, ace@acechapman.com. And, I'm on social media, so feel free to check me out on Twitter.
All right. And you've also got a book, right? And it's some crazy name, like something like How to Quilt and Bowl and Juggle.
All at once.
Oh, it's the ACE Formula, How to Buy a Business, right?
That's exactly it. So that's on Amazon. Actually, it's free if you have a Kindle, so you can download it on Kindle. But yeah, check out the book as well.
Oh, nice. All right. So all of that will be in the show notes and linked to you. Well, Ace Chapman, thanks for coming back from the Caribbean for this interview. And I think we need to have a powwow brainstorm session at your location in the Caribbean pretty soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show. What a great story and a great outlook on business and on life, isn't it? Why struggle so hard to build your own thing when you can just find a motivated seller and buy their thing? But I get it. You're growing your own business. You want to grow a business. It's your baby. I understand. All right. So listen to the advice that Ace provided. And by all means, diversify if you have the income, if you have the savings. I am working with him right now and his partner, Sam, to take some of my money I've got sitting in a self-directed IRA, and I'm going to partner up with these guys. That's the beauty of having a podcast as well, is I get to meet cool people, basically get free advice from them. I can ask them any question I want because I'm curious, and then I take action on that. I'm also going to be working with Wade Dunn Jr., you're going to hear his episode coming up pretty soon. But we're going to be starting an internet radio show, and something I'd never really thought of. I mean, I see it, I've seen like iHeartRadio, but some interesting things to look forward to. That'll be coming up episode 156. But this is session 151. So to see the notes and everything I linked to from this episode, visit thesaleswhisperer.com/151. You probably need to go back as usual and listen to this again. Look at the things that Ace mentioned that he's looking for in a business. So that will give you some ideas if you're trying to do some deals on your own, but it also gives you ideas on how to structure your own business. All right, there was a great book I listened to multiple times on Audible called Built to Sell. So if you want to get that for free, you can go to wessaudiobook.com, wessaudiobook.com. Go get that for free if you're brand new to Audible. But the story there was to build your business so you can sell it. It doesn't mean you have to, but wouldn't it be nice to know that you had the opportunity, the possibility, the option to sell your business, okay? So again, go back and listen to this. Look at the things that he looks at: earnings, gross income, net income, and what type of business are you? You know, are you an internet business? Are you a brick and mortar? All of those things matter, okay? I see too many entrepreneurs, they don't really have a lifestyle. They're tied to a job, but they just work for themselves. And you can never get away. You never have any security. You never build up any real income or real savings to go and invest to create passive and residual income. Okay. And trust me, that is the secret to having freedom, is having your money make money. It's the greatest thing on earth. So that's why I say go back. Listen to this again and again. Like I said, it is thesaleswhisperer.com/session 151. If you want a free audiobook, visit wessaudiobook.com. And finally, check this out. When it comes to growing a business, the number one thing a business owner must do is market their business, okay? You've got to be magnetic to prospects. You've got to be magnetic to money. So I want you to also check out thesalesspodcast.com/magnetic. Go see what we're up to there. You're going to love that program. It has been a staple in my arsenal for almost a decade now. And I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I know that have done the same thing, relied on this magnetic marketing program to grow their business. Okay. So it is thesalesspodcast.com/magnetic. Thank you for listening. Please tweet it out, share this with friends and family. And as always, remember to sell different.